want to talk about Caitlin Clark, and if there are more details that come up with the Colin Brown death, we will definitely go to it. It's a tragic story here in St. Louis, and it's really frustrating to continue on with these stories of people who are repeat offenders who are hurting people. So we'll get back to that story if more information arises. Scott Jennings, who is just been doing his Scott Jennings things here lately, was talking on CNN about the Caitlin Clark situation.
Why is that wrong?
Why is she being bullied for acknowledging something that's smart, truth, and factual?
Well, a couple things. Number one, whether you're an athlete or anyone else, if I hear you use the phrase "my truth," I immediately then discount everything else you say, because there isn't my truth or your truth. There's just the truth. And when you start using phrases like that, it tells me that
not true.
Your brain has been captured by something that I don't really respect.
That's not true.
Number two.
That's not true.
Number two, the attention the league got this year was amazing, and it was all because of her. She is an amazing player. The arenas were full when she played in them. The TV ratings were up when she was on television. That's undeniable. But, the league still lost like $40 million this year. And it's never made money. And to me, when you're talking about respecting people who built something, what did they build? A league that loses money every year? She has the capacity.
What do you mean,
to
what did they build? What do you mean, what did they build?
What kind of a business did they build?
The reason why it's still up and still running, whether it's losing money or not, is because of these black women who are in this.
Isn't it because of the investors?
No, Scott, stop it. You stop it now.
It's not. I was in Dickie's arena.
Who pays for it?
I was in Dickie's arena. Let me just tell you.
It says more about the people who are getting offended by it than her.
I think they're just disappointed that she appears to have been captured by the woke mob.
You don't like
She's
the
like
word.
being gracious.
And here's the disappointment.
It's the white privilege.
Hold on, let him articulate this, because I want to learn something.
I feel a little bad for her, because she's going to learn that it will never be enough. No matter how much of the phrasing, no matter how much of the groveling you do, it will never be enough for the people in that league that hate her guts.
Why do you assume
they hate her guts?
Why do you assume that she is trying to pander? Isn't it also...
Because I hear the language. It's the language of the pander. I hear the phrase white privilege. Sports is the one place where nobody on the field has any privilege at all. She doesn't get extra points when she shoots because she's white. She gets the same number of points as anybody else. Sports is the great equalizer, and it just felt like to a lot of people that she was groveling for no reason, because she is an amazing player who deserves all the accolades she's getting right now for doing what she's doing for women's basketball.
So CNN and having this conversation, good for them for having the conversation and continuing to keep Scott Jennings in the conversation, because I just literally saw within the last 24 hours that the Food Network beat CNN.
Wow.
Yes. This Food Network outrated CNN. So Scott Jennings is on here, and he's talking about something that everybody is talking about, certainly on X and in conversations like radio shows like ours, sports people, culture people, politics people are having these conversations. Caitlin Clark was named the Athlete of the Year by Time Magazine. Let's see here. This is a Fox News report. It says, in her discussion with Time, Clark seemed to agree with Wilson to an extent. Clark said, I want to say I've earned every single thing, but as a white person, there is privilege. A lot of those players in the league that have been really good have been black players. This league has kind of been built on them. The more we can appreciate that, highlight that, talk about that, and then continue to have brands and companies invest in those players that have made this league incredible, I think it's very important. I have to continue to try to change that. The more we can elevate black women, that's going to be a beautiful thing. Listen, Caitlin Clark's presence in the WNBA will elevate these black players because people are paying attention to the WNBA for the first time. And listening to those people challenge Scott Jennings. Scott Jennings is saying, listen, people are watching the WNBA now. They weren't watching it before. I'm looking this up right now. The NBA provides the WNBA with financial support in a few ways. The annual endowment to the WNBA by the men who play in the NBA is annually $15 million. Why are they sending $15 million over to the WNBA? To help cover operating costs like travel, facilities, marketing, and administration. Any functional business on their own should at minimum be able to cover operating costs. The WNBA has not been able to do that. More on that, the NBA and the WNBA are in negotiations for media rights deals that could bring in more than $7 billion per year. The WNBA expects to receive around $200 million per year from these deals. Ownership. The NBA owns about 60% of the WNBA. while the 12 WNBA teams own the remaining 40%. The WNBA has historically lost money, with some estimates saying it will lose around $50 million in 2024. That was their successful year. $50 million that they will lose in 2024, according to estimates. However, the league's revenue has doubled since 2019, and the WNBA had its most watched regular season in 24 years at the end of September. So, what happened this year? Caitlin Clark happened this year. Caitlin Clark is a white girl. Caitlin Clark cannot help that she's a white girl. The majority of players in the WNBA happen to be black girls. There is a skin color cultural divide in our country. But Caitlin Clark, by happenstance, has the talent that she has been blessed with, has now made it into the WNBA, and has brought attention to this thing that nobody cared about before, and I'm one of them. And I played varsity basketball through my senior year of high school. I was a player. I coached girls basketball. I did not know anything about the WNBA before this year. I watched Iowa college basketball like the rest of the country. We watched the women's college championship, and not the men's college championship. Who was in the men's college championship last year?
I don't remember.
It's a UConn.
Oh, yeah, and Purdue.
People didn't watch it. Who was in the women's?
There was Iowa and, I can't think of the lady's name. She's
South Carolina. And South Carolina won, but only if you ask anybody those questions, what do they remember? They remember that Caitlin Clark was in the women's championship. And then they probably remember that she was wearing a jersey from Iowa and that it was the Hawkeyes. That's what people remember. So she is a phenom. She is a once-in-a-lifetime player. She will transform the WNBA. She happens to be white, but just for the same reason that she can't help that she's not black, she also can't help that she's white. I'm watching on X all of these people who are conservative commentators with all of their hot takes. They're throwing Caitlin Clark away right now because she said there is privilege. Did you see the beginning of her statement where she said, I want to say I've earned every single thing? That's how she started her comments. Now, if you've watched her games, she gets the sugar kicked out of her every time she plays. It's filthy, it's dirty, it's nasty. She gets trucked over, and then the other players laugh at her. And they joke about it. And the media doesn't hold them accountable because there's some sort of race thing going on here, and it's not just basketball. What is Caitlin Clark supposed to do? She cannot solve the problem of, A, racial inequality and disparity if you think that's what the problem is. And she cannot also solve the problem of her whiteness just now being okay with everybody, because it's not going to be okay with everybody that she's white. Caitlin Clark is a really phenomenal generational basketball talent, and it is not Caitlin Clark's job to toe the line every time she gets the opportunity to speak on something to appease the masses and the asses that are out there trying to pressure her to be in the right cultural moment all the time. She can't possibly do that. What she can continue to do is show up and kill it every time she gets the opportunity to put a basketball in her hands. And she did that the whole time. She is a white, heterosexual female in the WNBA, and she would be the most sought-after player for anybody for any team. If they could bring Caitlin Clark onto their team, they would want to. Not even because of her basketball skill, but because of the dollars that she brings in the door. Every single owner out there would want her on that team. She's named Athlete of the Year. In the midst of all of this controversy that's going around, what is she supposed to say? Do you want Caitlin Clark, who just happens to be an amazing basketball player, to go to Time and say, yeah, I'm white, and I'm proud to be white, and all these people who are treating me bad because I'm white, I'm sick and tired. Like, what is she supposed to say in that moment?
She's trying to play basketball, and she's caught up in all of the midst of this nonsense. I mean, it's unfortunate because she's a terrific basketball player. She has broken every NCAA record. That's why people pay attention to her. She has broken even the male records for scoring. That's once in a generation. So when you capture people's attention like that, regardless of race, people kind of cling to you and they go, oh, yeah, this is a once-in-a-generation player, kind of like Michael Jordan or LeBron James. These people don't come along very often. And so when they do, you better, as a league, embrace them because they lift your league up. The example of the NBA is a good one because you're talking about the same sport. If these racist people who will only watch the WNBA because they have a white girl are also watching the NBA because that's not racist, though, it makes no sense.
Dan says on YouTube, Caitlin Clark just went woke. She lost me as a fan. Dan, she didn't go woke. She said the first thing she says is that I want to say I've earned every single thing. And then she says, but as a white person, there is privilege. It is different to live in this world and in this country when you're a white person and when you're a black person. It's unrealistic to think that there are differences. In the same way that you guys walking down the street at 9 p.m. in St. Louis versus me walking down at 9 p.m. Down the street in St. Louis, we are going to have different thoughts and fears in our mind. If you're walking by yourself and if you're walking with your wife, you have different thoughts and feelings in your mind. We have different experiences, and there's nothing wrong with calling that out. And Caitlin Clark, as a basketball player, does not owe the cancel culture and the DEI wokesters of the world. She doesn't owe them anything, and she also doesn't owe us anything. What she needs to do is go continue to kick ass at playing basketball every single opportunity she gets, and then we who have the opportunity to buy her jersey, to buy her shoes, if she ever gets those shoes finally printed out, which she doesn't have a shoe deal, or she has a shoe deal, but she doesn't have a shoe yet because I think they wanted Aja Wilson, who is a black female, to get her shoe out first. I don't understand why these companies hate money right now because my daughter would have Caitlin Clark shoes on her feet right now if they were out there to buy. Because she appreciates her. She respects her. But Caitlin Clark is not in this business to solve the culture of woke and DEI, and we cannot live happy lives constantly putting entertainers and putting athletes to our test and our standards when that's not the business they're in, and just write off everything that they've done to contribute to entertainment, to society, to culture, whatever. This is not a harmful statement. What she said is not a harmful statement. She did not set white people or black people or female basketball players back at all by this. And when she gets back on the court, she's going to continue to elevate all of the things that people have liked about Caitlin Clark. Number one being, she's an amazing basketball player. We are unburdened by what has been in the culture wars of years gone by because Donald Trump just won the election. Those days are over. We don't have to be miserable because somebody somewhere that we will never meet, that will never have some sort of actual real impact outside of the fact that it's going to be amazing to watch her continue to do work on the basketball floor over and over again. That is the service she provides us. We don't have to be miserable in people not measuring up to our side of the woke, anti-woke culture all the time. It is a miserable place to be. Unburden yourself by that. You guys could completely disagree with me. I don't know. But I just think that we, on our side of this DEI woke issue, we're so much the beat dog that the second something comes by, we feel like we got to lash out and lash back, and we don't have to do it.
I thought her comments were unfortunate. I also, though, immediately went, man, she's just trying to get out of this place that she's in.
And she's not going to.
She's not going to. And Scott Jennings is right. The more you do it, the more people are going to demand it from you. So I loathe to think what's coming of asking her to continue to make these statements and ask her to follow up on what you just said because she's obviously she's ignited something again. I just wish that she would say, look, I'm here to play basketball.
Yeah.
Like, don't comment on it at all.
That's what she has been saying.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what she's been saying up to this point. And she gets named, she's the white girl and the Time Athlete of the Year. You know, like, duh, of course she is. Of course she's that. And then she gets put in this position where she gets asked these questions again. She wasn't on Team USA.
It's unbelievable. Mm-hmm. It is unbelievable.
What she is up against, what she doesn't need is us to go, well, that wasn't anti-woke enough. I quit supporting you. This does not qualify.
She had done such a good job of staying out of it. That's what's unfortunate.
She's staying out of it. She is an athlete, not an activist, and her track record shows that. She just wants to play basketball, and the only reason we've ever heard anything about this, because you haven't heard anything about her say anything about any of this in anything leading up to this point in her entire run through college into the WNBA and all the success she's had. You don't hear about it until she's Times Athlete of the Year, and the Times article asks her, and she does an interview. She actually goes into an interview about this because she won this award. She just wants to play basketball, and I have no doubt in my mind that that's where she's at.
And golf.
Okay. But it's such a small phrase. And if we're as conservatives, if we got upset with LeBron James and we wanted him to, quote unquote, shut up and dribble, if that's what we want from our athletes, then we can't be out there expecting our other athletes that we wanted to be on our side or whatever, somebody out there just balling, to start quoting their own and championing your cause just because it's your cause. Either you want your athletes to be athletes or you want your athletes to be activists. Just let them be athletes.
Phenom says woke just needs to go away. I feel she's between a rock and a hard place. I do too. Chris says, sorry, Annie. I do disagree with you. She bent the knee. I see a lot of that bent the knee stuff. I completely disagree with that. And I don't, I have a feeling that there are more people listening to me right now who think I'm super wrong on this. So it'd be easy for me to not say it, but I'm not going to not say it.
No, it's okay.
I want to push back on it, and some people, what I want to do, which you do not need, is I want to give you permission to not care, to not feel like I guess I can't like Caitlin Clark now. That's ridiculous.
It doesn't matter.
We gotta go to. We're so far past. Yeah. Sorry. Do you have more to say?
Not really. I mean, I was disappointed to see it because it looks like caving to pressure because she had never said anything up until now. So
being disappointed in it, and I understand that. And I kind of feel the same. Like, oh, you did it.
Yeah,
you
exactly.
Being disappointed and saying, I will no longer support her because she bent the knee, those are two different things.
Yeah.
All right. We'll be back with the other important news of the day was Thomas Whitmore of Independence Day, Republican president.
Yeah, we're just getting to this now.
Or a Democrat president. We had to lead up to it to make sure that we had, okay.
And the movie came out in 1994.
Yes, so it's time.
We got to get to it.
We'll be right back.